Alrighty, welcome to chapter 9, the ninth chapter of the Great Experiment series. This is a wisdom-based series that can be applicable to any part of your life, including your personal life, your health, your relationships, your work. So this video is called the 411. So you get what you give. So here's the 411. Alright, so take an inventory on yourself. As we have been learning, we project everything outwards. So this is very important because we are always projecting ourselves outwards. We already have learned that we are electromagnetic beings, that we are always emitting energy. We are transmitters and receivers of energy. So we transmit and we receive frequencies. Everything is in motion. Everything that we see is in motion. One of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, transmitters and receivers of frequencies is right here and in our heart. Our heart is actually, I think, 5,000 times more potent of a transmitter than our brain is, but they work together to bring about the people, places, and things in our life that we are transmitting. So this is why it's very important to take inventory, because you can learn a lot of wisdom, and you can learn a lot of spiritual teachings, but if you don't take inventory on yourself and clean out your self-conscious and clean out your self-limiting beliefs, then you're really not going anywhere. So first things first, how teachable are you? What are you willing to give up, to sacrifice, video 2, to listen? What are you willing to are you capable of expanding your mind and learning something new? Or are you so fixated on religious indoctrinations, scholarly indoctrinations, social indoctrinations, social media indoctrinations? Now there's a new type of indoctrination, which is social media indoctrinations. How people are perceived to be in the social media light. Are you willing to give up that in order to adhere to some new wisdom principles? Or are you not capable of doing that? And if you're not capable of doing that, then right there, that basically tells you that is your threshold, right? So right there, you're not teachable. That is your threshold. What are you willing to give up? Are you willing to give up time to watch this video? Are you willing to give up? It's springtime right now. It's a little cold outside, but let's say it's a nice day and you like to go play golf. Are you willing to give up a round of golf? Are you willing to give up something to God, to the universe, to receive? Because expectation breeds manifestation. So, are you willing to give up temptations? Are you willing to give up a dark side of you that you know you have? Are you willing to give that up to be a new person? So now we're going more profound into the actual practices of what people do. Very successful people, very happy people. Success can be very happy, fulfilled people do in order to achieve great amounts of joy. Money. People tithe. People give up their time to teach. Right? So, okay. Am I able to place myself in the shoes of others, or am I always thinking about myself? So you have to be very introspective. So when you do something, when you are doing something, do you do it based off of what you knowing or believing or thinking what you're going to get in return, or do you do it based off of giving? Or do you do it based off of money, accolades, notoriety, etc., to get somewhere, or do you do it based off the wholeheartedness of your heart. Also, when you are thinking of someone, talking to someone, listening to someone, do you have the capability of putting yourself in their shoes and feeling what they feel? Because when you do that, you will now encompass what it is to love thy neighbor, right? So, and that person will pick up on that, and they will reciprocate that to you because you are giving that. So you can only essentially receive what you provide, what you give, right? Are my actions done from a place of wholeheartedness or vanity? So say, what we covered. There's a book called Third Circle Theory, which is a great book, and this is what it talks about: is a lot of people chase money, a lot of people chase fame, a lot of people chase notoriety, whatever. But when they get there, they realize that is a very vain, false, synthetic high. That is not something that actually fulfills them within, but it is the change that they can leave within the world that is sustainable, that is transferable, that leaves them filled within. Or it doesn't necessarily even have to be the world. It could be their close friends or family. So, all right. So here's some very high wisdom principles. So when you're taking your inventory, you have to realize that you have to get rid of a lot of the negative, pessimistic, egocentric, narcissistic, self-indulgent thoughts and practices. Because if you're only focusing on yourself, if you're only worried about what you feel, and you base a lot of your actions based on what you feel, you haven't gotten it yet. Because you are so infatuated with your own self that you're not giving as much as you should be giving to others or to source. Therefore, you're not reciprocating that. So, when you're filtering out a lot of this ego stuff out, you have to understand that the ego is the dark. It's not wisdom, which is the light. So light attracts light. Like attracts like, right? So light attracts light, but it can also attract the dark, because the dark receives nourishment from the light. Light has the ability to give the dark nourishment, just like the sun has the ability to give Mother Earth, or even the things that have no divine consciousness, not compared to spiritual beings, life, right? So, chlorophyll is what is green, and that allows us to give us nutrients. But that would be impossible without the sun, without the light. So, same thing with wisdom. It would be impossible to live a fulfilled life without wisdom, because it's been designed like that. So, light has the ability to attract other light and to supplement, to nourish the dark. But it also has the ability to turn away from the dark. So the dark can receive the light, but it cannot produce the light. This is very high wisdom. The dark is not able to produce the light. It is a void, right? So therefore, it is not receiving the light if the light turns away from the dark. So, because like attracts like, the dark will, once the light will turn away, if you decide to turn away from wisdom, you will self-decay. Your ego will self-decay. So like attracts like, so therefore ego will attract more of ego, and dark attracts more of dark, which will essentially self-decay. Alrighty. And that is why so the general public will reflect what you give. Wise people will give gracefully if they observe incorrectness. So do not confuse grace or meekness with weakness. I know very wise people who will allow things to happen, who are acting upon grace. If you commit a mistake, or if you sin, meaning to miss the mark, if you do something, if you hurt someone physically, emotionally, whatever it may be, or yourself, or you steal, or whatever it may be, the universe, God, will give you grace and allow it to pass. Allow it, it will forgive you. God will forgive you, but not if you keep doing it over and over again. And we'll get into that in a minute. So do not confuse grace or meekness with weakness. If anything, it is tougher. It is, I would say, it takes more emotional skill to be meek and graceful, rather than to be, a hard ass, or rather than to be an asshole. I think it's very easy to be an asshole. I was an asshole when I was younger. I have some family members who can very much well be assholes. I truly, honestly think it is a lot easier to be an asshole. I could snap like that and be an asshole to anyone. But I have found out that it takes more emotional skill to be meek and to be grace. So most successful and happy people that I know are graceful and meek, but they will also be very quick to correct or to show people out of grace. And if that is not the case, then they will be if they will not force things upon them. I have a buddy named Cliff Strand. Rest in peace, Cliff. But he passed away this past year, actually. I met him in a club that I belong to, the Orange County Exchange Group, based out of Orange County, California. I'm part of this group today, still, and I have the most respect, and I'm so grateful to be part of this group, honestly. Cliff Strand was one of those guys who was very graceful and meek, and he was always observing. And a lot of these people in this club, they observe. They give little tests to people to see if they can earn their trust, right? That's what they do. And if they can trust you, then they will teach you business things. They will show you. If you, hey Cliff, let me take you out to lunch. I want to learn some business strategies or 1031 exchanges or whatever it may be. The fact that they are able to teach people and be meek when they have buku dollars, like millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. They have a lot of success. Just shows me who I want to become and who I want to emulate, and how they are able to attract others like-minded, like themselves, by emulating this type of wisdom. Cliff did business with Jerry Buss. So, and when they teach others, like Cliff, they would be very patient, and they would be graceful, but they would, if they didn't see the reciprocation and gratitude, they'd be very quick to cut ties, because they knew their self-worth. So in life, you have to have your self-worth and emit that self-worth, because no one's going to do it for you. John F. Kennedy, right? But you also have to take self-inventory and say, am I the one who deserves to have a high self-worth? Because if I treat others, that if I'm not able to put myself in the shoes of other people, listen to other people, do things for other people, then what makes me think that I deserve a high self-worth? Am I judging others without looking at my own flaws first? So judgments rob your blessings. Judgments rob your blessings. Judgments rob your blessings. That is very, very high wisdom. How? Okay, I'll explain how. If you think a scenario is like this and boom, that's just the way it is, you have not allowed the miracle to happen. You have not allowed the universe to work on your behalf. Let's say you wanted to write a book, right? Or whatever. And you only had so much resources, but you took the action. And you were at a cafe. And you started typing. And you had no money to your name. And you had a baby. And you kept on writing the story and kept on writing the story. You took the action because it was the highest, most fulfilling action that would produce the most joy at that moment, and you were steadfast. The days that you didn't want to go to the cafe, go to Starbucks and write, you did anyways, because you made a decision, right? A decision. You made a decision. You cut out the temptations of the negativity, and you committed to that goal, and you completed that goal. And then you went to the studios, the movie studios, and you sold it to them for millions and millions of dollars, and the movie became Harry Potter. That's the story of J.K. Rowling. So my point is that from the exterior, you may think, oh, well, this J.K. Rowling only had so much resources. So how was she able to become a billionaire? Or, take money out of the equation. How is she able to follow her dreams? Because, someone can say, well, how did she do this? How did she do this? Well, she followed her fastest path to the joy. She committed. She was in the receiving mode. She followed the fastest path to her joy, but she made a commitment, but she took action, right? And that's why you don't judge on the circumstance, because she came from nothing. So because she came from nothing, she was then able to focus that negativity, because that's fuel. Negativity is fuel. That's more wisdom. Negativity, you can use that as fuel. Actually, that's the only thing you should really use it for, is fuel, to focus. So she focused that negativity, right? And she turned it into a masterpiece. So do not judge, because once you judge, if she were to judge herself, or if others were to judge her, if she were to judge herself, then she would have robbed herself of her blessing. And I can give you more examples. I've dated women who are who are 10s. And from the exterior, I judge them and be like, oh wow, this woman's absolutely gorgeous. Stunning. She looks like a model. But when I took her out a few times, I realized that that this particular person had not developed the capability of having a genuine conversation, because she was so fixated on herself all the time. And it was her world, nothing else existed. And that is not attractive. So it cut the ties. Anyways, so John 8:17-11. He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go on and sin no more. So what that passage is saying, we read some passages on this channel. um, basically is saying that if you are able to forgive yourself and make a amends with yourself, God will give God will forgive you too. Source, the universe will forgive you too. Be conscientious that you have to become a new self. Because let the dead bury the dead. You cannot go back to being your old self once you've made a decision, right? Once you've taken a path, you have to be steadfast in taking that path. So, a lot of, I listen to Bashar and I listen to, some of these spiritual people on YouTube. And this is something that they don't necessarily talk about, is doing the internal work, doing the house cleaning. You got to clean house, right? You got to clean your temple. Right here is your temple. So you will be guided, but if you have so much judgments, everything that you cast out will be sent back to you. So if you're a person, who judges everything, in general, whoever, that will paralyze you, because we'll get this in this chapter. We'll get to this in this chapter, but you have to. The universe is a mirror. It will reflect to you what you are thinking, and you'll paralyze yourself, because you will start to think of people and how they are judging you. So if you are able to drop judgments, if you're able to be meek, if you're able to be graceful and observe and commit, then you will now be cleaning, and you'll be playing defense against the temptations, because you will not be robbing your blessings, because you will not be judging. All right, billionaire Justin Ishbia of Sheer Capital private equity company, private equity firm, said, "You get one in reputation. Use it wisely." Right. So just know that you are cultivating your reputation. And yes, will others think things about you? Maybe, but don't even worry about that. Your reputation should be based on what you believe is your authentic self, based on universal principles. These universal principles, from the most profound, deepest part of my heart, I'm telling you these to help you cultivate your authentic self. It will only benefit you to do so by using these universal principles. Alrighty. Good communication with others. Communication is everything in relationships and business. I learned this in college through the communications class. I remember I was sitting in communications class one day, and this lady, very well, mid-40s, whatever, very, very well put together, very elegant, very, beautiful and everything, and she's very polished. She says, communications class is the number one skill in any industry that you go into. If you are able to communicate, you will go far in life. And boy, was she absolutely correct. She was absolutely correct, because at the end of the day, in whatever industry you're in, whether it's medical, whether it's sales, whether it is, products or services, whatever it may be, guess who controls all those industries? It's people. So if you're able to communicate with people, if you're able to influence people, then you have a gift. You've developed a gift, because people will then look at you and say, I trust this person. I adhere to this person's ideas because it makes sense, because they've explained them well. They hear me out. They put themselves in my shoes. They know what I'm going through. I know what they're going through. So whatever it may be. So communication is essential. Social media has drained the magic of courting in a way from society. Yes, I truly believe that social media has, in the old days, right? Courting was an art, right? Robert Greene, Art of Seduction. So, men courting women, or, whatever, is an art form. I had a buddy when I was living in LA. He told me one day, he's like, yeah, I was riding the bus and I got this girl's Snapchat. And I was like, what does that even mean? He's like, oh, now I can, communicate with her. I said, well, why don't you just get her number? Just get her freaking number, dude. Why do you have to get her Snap? So, there is an art form to not just courting, but to communicate. Being witty, having charisma, thinking of funny things to say, reciprocating, banter, all of these things, it's an art form. And it is slowly being drained through false pretenses of what seems to be important in the social media realm. So communication with others is vital, because that is how you express your ideas. That is how you're able to build relationships and keep relationships. Put yourself in others' shoes when you communicate with them and think of how they would like to be treated. This will always work in your favor. Like we spoke. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie. Great book. Be easy on yourself. Take the risk. Shoot your shot. Take the action. The pleasures of life are in the actions that we take. If they go as planned, then great. If not, then we have learned something, so in the end, it is a win-win. Everything in life is framing. Everything in life is perspective. You have an interview for a job, but you're nervous because you don't know if you're going to get this job, and it might be out of your limits of what is on your resume or whatever. Well, why don't you write the owner of the company or the hiring manager or whatever a nice letter instead of just sending her your resume on email? Why don't you send them a letter as to why, what differentiates you from all the other candidates? So think outside the box, right? If I want to ask my buddy Cliff, who passed away, but at that time I asked him, how do I write a pitch deck? Let me take you out to lunch. I'll bring my notebook. Boom. Think outside the box. So, karmas. What you do for others comes back to you. This is because you must be aware and conscious of what you are doing. Karma happens to create a point of reference for that person. Everything needs a point of reference, or else you cannot relate to it. If you cannot relate to it, you will continue to entertain ignorance, and it will therefore perpetuate ignorant acts and behaviors, which will spawn off more ignorant things, people, circumstances, etc. So much so that if one does not correct this ignorance with wisdom, right, with the light, then that individual will be completely lost and dependent on man's ideology, man's games, man's tactics, society's norms, what is acceptable. They will be at the mercy of the judgments of others. And pitfalls will be inevitable because it is designed that way. Because you're not getting favor. Divine favor. See, people say, oh, life is not fair. Well, life isn't fair. Yeah, that's absolutely correct if you're in the dark all the damn time, because you're not going with the flow. Once you go with the flow, you will receive guidance. You will receive people in your life who will help you, because you have put yourself in that state of frequency. So you will attract people, places, and things that match that frequency. And if you pray without ceasing, which is essentially practicing wisdom all the time, you don't have to be, praying all the damn time, but just, whatever. Practicing wisdom principles all the time of what we're talking about will make you a better person. It's so simple. So, man's ideology is synonymous with the carnal mind, which is a collection of false universal truths that will lead to pitfalls. It will lead to pitfalls because God makes sure that these pitfalls exist. So one learns to stop enacting on these carnal laws through reaching the pinnacle of pain or defeat, and then turn to the Father or God for direction. The ego will always do four things. It will make you consume, whether it's food, gossip, gambling, sex. It will lie to you. Oh, because of judgments that you place upon yourself. Oh, this is not going to happen. Oh, I don't know about this, or I'm going to, try this, but I don't think it's going to work. It will steal from you. It will rob you. Again, because of your judgments. Self-talk yourself into a situation that you know deep down inside that is not to the best of your favor, but you do it anyways because you feel comfortable, and the ego wants to make you feel comfortable, and wants to make you feel safe. And finally, it will kill, and that's an extreme example, but it's true. It could kill your blessings. It could kill things that benefit you. It could kill, yourself. I've met people who are so self-centered, and they've passed away that they were drug addicts. And they were so in their ego that by listening to what they talk about, you think you're like, no wonder. Because you have no wisdom within you. You're so shot up on all of this self talk. You're only, you self-identified with this disease so much so that this persona has overtaken your body, and you cannot help but shake at the thought of alcohol or drugs because you're only thinking about that next high. You're not transmitting the power of wisdom. Anyways. Alright, eliminating the pain body. The pain body and the ego will work together to feed from negative thoughts. So the pain body and the ego will work together to feed off of negative thoughts. So it's like nourishment. Negative thoughts is nourishment. They can trick us into thinking that because we have suffered from something or someone, that this now makes us entitled to special treatment or a reward for our suffering, which is erroneous. It uses pain to feed the ego to demand that our outer circumstances, the minds of others, change without looking at ourselves first and identifying the habitual thoughts that we need to correct in order to bring about change in our lives. So it's an emotional set point. If your pain body is one of, well, I'm going to do this, but I don't think it's going to work, so why even do it anyways? Well, you got a lot of cleaning up to do. You got a lot of cleaning up to do, and the first law of prosperity, again, it could be health, wealth, love, and happiness. It could be the same thing as prosperity, is organization. And organization comes through wisdom. So that is the first domino in a positive direction, is organizing your life. Organization is the first domino to receiving prosperity. That's wisdom. Because it allows energy to flow. Okay, so a lot of times, and I know if you who are watching this channel have been through something, a loss or something traumatic, and I know it's easier said than done, but it should be done. You have to let the dead bury the dead and know that what happened to you, whatever it may be, were not treated right. You were bullied. You lost something. You lost someone. Whatever it may be. The pain body will want to reciprocate that treatment, that scenario that happened to you onto other people, because you want others to feel your pain, right? Because misery loves company. You have to let the dead bury the dead. I mean, you have to let the past of those situations that happened that are negative go. You have to let the negative situations, you have to let those go. And you have to focus on the positive situations in your life. You have to focus on the positive memories of your life. You have to focus on the positivity, because that will bring more positivity. It sounds so cheesy, but it's true. The whole first part of this was the ego, was cleaning out the ego, right? Cleaning house, and then the pain body. So everything is framing. If you have the emotional set point and saying, well, I don't know if I should do this because it might not work, or this person's going to make fun of me, or, this person's going to judge me. Well, who cares? So what? So what people think? People are going to think things all the time. Don't let anyone's thoughts of you do what is placed in your heart. Do them anyway, because half the time it could work to your favor, or even better. It could even be better than what you imagined. But because you judged something that you didn't even calculate the circumstances, because it's impossible to calculate all of the circumstances. You have, by judging, by limiting that action or whatever, you have robbed your blessing. On the contrary, by taking action, or by killing the pain body and saying, no, you know what, I'm teachable. I think what this guy has to say has some sense to it, as it makes sense. It's logical. There's wisdom to it. It feels right. It resonates with me. I'm gonna give it a try. Because if it doesn't work, then at least I learned a lesson. So, all right. So you have to bury the pain body, because you are not your thoughts. You're spiritual divine being. So stop associating, just like the drug addict, stop associating with that type of lifestyle. Because if you keep doing that, then you are programming your mind like a software that is you, when it's not your divine consciousness. Awareness, consciousness is the first step to ending the pain body. We have to be conscious of the thoughts we have, for this is the power that we give. Some of these thoughts may be automatic. The more we catch these thoughts from continuing to process, the better. An exercise that helps with catching these thoughts is to first discern how you feel and quickly understand that you are not your thoughts. By catching your feelings, that is the best way that is the best exercise to do this. You execute that pain body. You execute that pain body. And you can say, boom, you catch it and you burn it and you get rid of it. You say, no, this doesn't serve me. Do I really, honestly, truly believe, let's be honest with ourselves, do I believe that this mindset, this affiliation that I have of myself is beneficial to me?